I'll be real with you guys. 2025 has been an insane year of bangers from every single price point, especially in the indie scene. From the likes of Clear Obscure Expedition 33 to Sword of the Sea, all the way to the likes of Silk Song and one of the greatest 2D Metroidvanias of all time, in my opinion, in Shinobi Arts of Vengeance. And this is without me even talking about what's going on with the AAA companies. And honestly speaking, they aren't really doing as good as what the indie developers are currently doing right now. So it's by no surprise that when a game like Hades 2 finally makes its way to 1.0, it's by far one of the greatest sequels of all time in gaming. Yes, I said it's one of the greatest sequels of all time in gaming. This is coming from someone who isn't the biggest roguelike fan, but fell in love with Hades. So let's actually talk about what this game does great and why I think it is a clear Game of the Year nominee that everyone and their mama should play. Men and women of culture, welcome back to the channel, it's your boy Senzu. Thank you guys for watching. If this is your first time watching the video, hey, how you doing? If this is your first time watching the video and you're a returning viewer, what's good, kings and queens? Thanks for watching the video. It goes a long way, just liking, subscribing, helping out with the channel. As a small YouTuber, it does help us a lot. So please share the video if you can, like the video, subscribe, it helps. Without further ado, let's head into the Hades 2 review and actually talk about why Hades 2 is great. Hades as a game is pretty much the only reason why I entertain the concept of roguelike games to begin with. I really didn't embrace the concept of making little to no progress in your runs while doing the same thing all over again. It felt like the antithesis of why I enjoy playing games, which is the progression over time, knowing that the enemies that kicked you out in the first hours of a title are now easy as hell to beat 30 plus hours into a game. I think the reason why I like Hades has more to do with the narrative device used in the game, as well as the era the game takes place in, as I am a big fan of Greek mythos and Greek mythology and its pantheons. As a game, the combat was good in Hades as you had multiple ways to beat enemies with different builds you could use. Now, for the people who are new to roguelikes or Hades in general, I'm going to give you guys a brief summary or synopsis of the story. In Hades, you play as Zagreus, the prince of the underworld, who is fighting his way to reach the surface against his father's wishes, who just so happens to be Hades. The stakes in this game aren't the highest, but why Hades works so much has to do with the characters and learning more about their relationships with each other. It also helps if you're already interested in Greek mythology, as that goes a long way as well. Now, in Hades, you go through a series of floors defeating enemies till you reach the boss of the floor, who tends to be hard at first, but with time, you pretty much overcome them easily. You have multiple weapons you can pick from and things or abilities called boons, which grant you abilities on each run. Think of these boons as a blessing from the Greek pantheons in order to help you overcome the runs you go through in Hades. These boons aren't permanent as it's randomly generated on each run, but trust me, the combination of boons and weapons in this game opens up so many possibilities in how you want to play this game. Now, with all that being said about Hades, I'll just say it. Hades 2 does everything Hades does, but turned up to 1000%. I'm talking about the content, the weapons, the boons, the characters, and also the story is much more serious, with the stakes being as crazy as it is. In Hades 2, you play as Melinoe, who is the princess of the underworld and the younger sister of Zagreus. And this game is all about literally fighting time, who just so happens to be your grandfather Kronos, who is looking to find revenge against the Greek gods that imprisoned him in the first place. I'm not going to say more about the story because that'll be giving away a large reason as to why Hades 2 works so well, but I do hope you guys actually even look into the game and actually try it out for yourselves. So look, I've only put about 25 hours into this game and have already beaten Kronos twice, or rather, I've only beaten Kronos twice, but I can confidently say that Hades 2 is a piece of art in every sense of the term. From the advancements in its combat system, to its music, to the impeccable art design of its characters who just happen to all be hot for some reason. I'm looking at you, Hecate and Nemesis. To the amount of content you have access to in this game from the jump. So let's talk about what makes Hades 2 combats better than the original. The combats in Hades 2 has taken a more nuanced approach with what you had in Hades, as Melinoe is a witch. With this, you now have access to magic and weapons that use magic, which is another resource that you have to manage in this game. Melinoe doesn't necessarily move as fast as her older brother, but the movement and animation in this game is way smoother than what we had in the original. She also now has access to a sprint move, which wasn't a thing in the original game as far as I can remember. With the combats, Melinoe's cast inputs isn't a projectile like in Hades, but rather an AoE move that locks your enemies for only a few seconds. The beauty I did notice in this game is your experience of the game is primarily made from how open you are to experimenting different builds in each run. I'll be honest with you, there have been times that I've gone so far in this game without really having a strategy with the boons I pick up along the way. But the RNG gods just so happen to present me with a build that carries me all the way to the end of a run. And that's one of the great things about Hades 2, is that there's so many opportunities and possibilities of what you can do with the particular builds you have. If you're someone who's really into build crafting for, like, say for example, like a Borderlands or a Diablo or a Path of Exile 2, Hades 2 as a roguelike really harks on the fact that you will enjoy the different builds. You get so much benefit from just experimenting. Oh, hey, I'm going to go with Aphrodite's attack move, with maybe Hestia's cast move, and then maybe Hermes' dash move. All these things might not make sense to you now if you haven't played Hades before, but honestly speaking, once you get into the rhythm and once you get into the meta of the game, it just opens so many possibilities that you wouldn't even expect. Now, in terms of difficulty, I find Hades 2 to be a little bit more difficult in the early hours as you come to terms with how this game operates. But trust me, once you put in the time to get better in this game, you'll be reaching the final boss in little to under 20 minutes every single time. Now, remember what I said about how this game has way more content than its predecessor? Well, Supergiant, the developers of this game, also added another path in this game that's way more difficult than the first area you're in. I won't spoil what it is and why you're actually in this new area, but all I'll say is the bosses and characters you meet here aura farm pretty much every single time you see them, which is literally just fucking epic. Now, progression in this game is probably why I love it so much and don't put it in the same category as other roguelike games. In Hades, it felt like the progression was locked to a slider that made only single finger percentage differences to your permanent stats in the game. Hades 2 takes a different approach with the Arcana system. The Arcana system lets you upgrade Mel with various stats boosts and even some game-breaking ones throughout the game. It's definitely way more impactful with your day-to-day runs as you notice how big the gap is in skill from your very first run all the way to your 100th run. It also helps that every single run in this game has something different that you don't expect. I do recall in the 10-hour mark I started getting tired of this game. Then all of a sudden something crazy happened and I immediately said, yeah, this game is heat. Now, when it comes to performance, as Hades 2 is a Switch exclusive at launch, you can also get it on PC. The performance of this game is incredible on the Switch too. I haven't really tried it on the Switch, but I can easily recommend this game to Switch 2 owners as you get a solid 4K 60 FPS or 1080p 120 FPS in this game with all the bells and whistles. So, as I've just said in the video with Hades 2, if you love Hades 1, if you enjoyed Hades 1, you're going to love Hades 2. So for someone like me who enjoyed Hades but wasn't really in love with Hades 1, I did like the aspects of different relationships you had within the Greek mythos or whatever. Hades 2 just felt like it did everything better and at a higher level, from the animation to the art style to the combat system to the build crafting. And I'm not even someone who I don't hate build crafting in my games. I don't hate making builds, but something just feels right when playing Hades 2. I'm going for another run like, oh man, I could have beaten this game if I'd used something like Demeter, or I could have used some of another god special moves. Like, trust me, people have literally made YouTube careers off this particular game for its build system, and honestly speaking, it's incredible. Supergiant, you've done a wonderful job, you've done an amazing job, but this is just another pin in the heart of indie developers. And when people say gaming is dead in 2025, this is another $25 game, or I think it's $30, £25 game that it's an easy recommend. It is an easy Game of the Year nominee. It's going to be difficult. You have this, you have Silk Song, you have Clear Obscure, you have Sword of the Sea, you have Shinobi Art of Vengeance. These aren't necessarily all indies, but they're all below the asking price of like a $60 or $70 or whatever. So in conclusion, Hades 2 is a phenomenal game. It's a masterpiece. It is one of the greatest sequels of all time in gaming. To me, it's very similar to where you go from Uncharted 1 going into Uncharted 2. That level of scale and that level of scope that the developers are able to achieve is the exact same thing that happens with Hades 1 going into Hades 2. I do hope you guys watched the video. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, leave in the comment section down below. What's your best run with Hades 2? What's your best build? What's your best weapon you use in Hades 2? I would love to know more about that. And before I actually go, what I have been playing Ghost of Yotei, which probably would be the next review I'm working on. And I'm just going to say, there's a reason why PlayStation does things better than a company like Xbox. Just one. Ghost of Yotei, you know what? That's a different video for another day. Thanks for watching the video. Hope to hear from you soon. I'm gonna see you on the next one. Stay active. Love you all. Peace.